Hello, everyone. Welcome to day one of the Ascent Masterclass. Okay, so in case you don't know, I'm excited too. The basis, I know that I didn't leave very much information on the registration page, and that was kind of intentional. We are talking about growth tension. So the overall theme of everything that we're going to be unpacking is essentially the upward spiral of life. Because obviously nothing stays the same. Everything is constantly evolving. And so the purpose of this masterclass is to really help you understand the rhythm of life, the seasons of life, the expansion and evolution that you're undergoing in a way that serves you, and decoding a lot of the fogginess between what's expansion, what's old programming, what is guidance that's steering me away from something. How do I conjure like that energy that really makes me feel alive and ready? There are so many nooks and crannies, and I wanted to bring this to you all so that you can start discerning things in a way that makes you feel more confident as you're moving through life. Because I feel like that's what we all want. Am I right? Where when we're in a different season, we are not kicking and screaming as we're moving through the season, but we're actually understanding, capitalizing on it, using it in a way that serves us. This whole thing, I have a feeling all of you know my belief around this. I firmly believe life is for fun. It's for fun. It's for pleasure. It's for entertainment. You came here to have a good time, to explore, to grow, to experience the richness of life. Risk is one of my favorite topics, and this is also the starting point of your evolution or the starting point of your expansion. I'm just feeling into where this wants to start. Give me 1 second. When we are expanding, which is going to be driven by desire and preferences, right? Desire causes you to expand. Your awareness of I do like this, I don't like that causes expansion. That's like the explosive universal energy. So you being a microcosm of the universe, I've talked about this in many a masterclasses. You're a microcosm of the universe. You are expanding in the same way the universe does. And this tension between your expansion and perhaps the old paradigms or the old ways of being and operating and moving through the world, that's where risk lives. So I see risk as being an unavoidable consequence of expansion. There is no escaping risk. And there's two different types of risk. So there's risk in expansion, and there's risk in stagnation or complacency. So either way, if you do things the same way, there's a risk in that. And if you do things differently, there's a risk in that as well. Either way, both are going to result in expansion for different reasons. But every single moment, you're facing some level of risk. How you assess, judge, and equate the risk relative to whatever the alternative might be is really where the human aspect of you really comes out. So when I'm saying complacency is a risk, right? Or doing things the same way is a risk, because deprivation of where you desire to go is what creates pain, right? So if you really, really want something, yet you're depriving yourself, that creates more and more tension. In the same way, if you're doing something differently, that is what will put you into perceived risk. So the brain does not like the unknown. It does not like things that are unfamiliar. It does not like surprises. Then let's go back to how you grew up, or what typical conditioning looks like around risk, and how parents often navigate risk. So instead of you being taught how to discern aligned risk from danger, this is an actual threat, a lot of the time novelty was used as a reason for your parents to get stressed out. Like trying something that you've never done before, even if it's not dangerous or life-threatening or anything like that. The way that there is so much conditioning around new things, novel things, my toddler doing this new thing, or my 5-year-old wanting to go here or play on this playground toy or whatever. So many parents infuse that with fear, telling you to constantly be careful, watch out, you could get hurt by this could happen, that could happen. And the thing is, this causes discernment to just completely tank. So your assessment of what is actual risk and what is expansion is muted really early on. This isn't always true, but it is. I mean, we know this is such a strong pattern for so many people. We see parents doing it all the time. No shame. You want your child to survive, right? But there's also this sweet spot in keeping your child safe and also letting them expand at a fast pace, because that's the potential. The potential of children is that they can do way more than what you might judge them as being capable of, because they don't have any mental limits. They don't have any programming yet that dulls their perception of risk. So it just gets so muddy so early on, because instead of you being taught to live in alignment, which there's a very there's a universal reason why we wouldn't want that, right? There's a reason why we would not all want to be born into a utopia. Earth wouldn't really serve its purpose, right? So we don't want to just have this endless utopia. We want programs to exist that cause expansion, right? So there's a function to it, even if it's dysfunctional, even if it's not ideal. So yes, so easy to fall into that pattern of programming. Yes. So then how this ends up playing out as you mature, and then I'll speak to the opposite in a moment. If you had the helicopter parent thing, or if you had a worrywart mother, or if you had someone who is constantly warning you of the danger that exists, anytime you wanted to try something new or do something different, or if you expressed a desire like, I want to learn how to play this instrument, or I want to build this skill, or I want to do this thing, and you were met with, this is why you're not going to, this is why you shouldn't, this is why it's a bad idea, then it's safe to say that more than likely aligned risk is something that is associated with danger. Conversely, so let me speak to the opposite. This is also the category that I grew up in, is where my parents were high-risk people in all of the wrong ways, in the dangerous kind of ways. So the opposite extreme, and of course, this all exists on a spectrum. Some of you had parents that were comfortable letting you take certain risks, but not others. Maybe your parents were super uptight about some things and not about others. So there's a whole bunch of variability to all of this. But speaking to the extreme on the other side, the reaction on my end from having a father in particular who was downright reckless. Like, I should not be alive. There was so much reckless behavior, dangerous situations, dangerous environments, dangerous people. I was constantly in danger. And the reaction to that was to become more conservative with how I assess risk. Being able to evaluate situations and say, that's a risk that I'm not willing to take. And then also being almost desensitized to other risks. So when, at least my experience growing up in a very dangerous household, is being super desensitized to adrenaline. So adrenaline is one of those bodily chemicals that I don't get very often. It's rare for me to experience that. So there are many risks that other people would normally have a really intense adrenaline response to that I'm completely numb to, like skydiving. For example, I felt nothing skydiving. I wasn't scared. I didn't get any adrenaline. Although I wanted it, the desire was there, I didn't experience it. Jumping out of a plane, normally gets the blood pumping, But if you have a constant high risk household, danger, and you're just so exposed to it, other things will pale in comparison to that. I also have another story for you. When I was 11, my dad moved me up to Portland, Oregon. And there was a snow day at some point during, I think it was January. And we lived up on this hill. And the thing about the Northwest that I notice is it's not like you get 5 feet of snow unless you're up in the mountains. What you get in the Northwest is ice. So we lived on top of this hill, and there was a really steep road right next to the house that we were living in. And for those of you who don't know, my dad's an alcoholic. And during that snow day, he got really drunk, and he coerced me outside and said, come on, come outside. He grabs a sled, stood at the top of that hill, put the sled in my hands and said, go. On this black ice, this super steep hill that would have inevitably made me crash into the vehicles parked down below. Naturally, I didn't do it, which I was then punished for, as alcoholics do, screamed and yelled at. But the point in all of this was it made my discernment kick into high gear. Like my assessment of that risk was so natural as a result. Like, that is one thing that I will not do because it will inevitably result in bodily harm. So it's a no-brainer. And the piece that we want to reactivate or we want to re-inspire within you is awareness of, is this going to kill me? Is this actually going to kill me? Is this actually something that is so dangerous I shouldn't do it? Or is this the internal voice of, don't do it, you might get hurt, you might get hurt, and the perpetual reminder of you might get hurt? Let me read this and then we're gonna shift back into this. I like taking risks, but the only thing is I have a child now and I really don't want to spiral us into instability. How do I balance this? Perfect segue. So when it comes to risk assessment, This is one of those things that only you will know for sure what type of risks you can actually handle and what kind of risks you can actually take. Because it's something that there's so many layers. It's not just like it sounds like this is like a financial risk or a big life move or a big career change or whatever. The way that I would go about it is, yes, looking at the worst case. So the worst case is how you can evaluate whether or not it's just like a mirage, if it's just that old program, or if it's legit. If it's legit, as in the energy is not mature enough to the point where taking that risk is aligned. So if the worst case scenario is my life falls apart, my child will starve to death, and my life will never be the same for all of the wrong reasons, pump the brakes, right? If that is true, then the energy isn't mature enough, because when a decision is right, that isn't going to be the dominant possibility. So it's a matter of, okay, dream it a little bit longer, meditate more, like get the energy backed behind what you want. Get your energy behind the desired outcome that you're looking for. Then that way, when it's fully matured, you'll notice that the worst case scenario probability in terms of your body response goes way, way, way down, which then means that you've already gotten to the point where you've ensured that things are now mature enough. You've ensured that the energy is fully backed, that you're ready to make the move. The other side of things would be, I'm going to use posting on social media as an example of this, because I know there's a lot of people who are running businesses, creating content, putting themselves out there. So it's just a good example. Will it kill you to start creating online? No. It will not kill you. So if you're experiencing a lot of fear, it could be garden variety dysregulation, right? Your nervous system could just be dysregulated around visibility and being seen, in which you would want to trace everything back to regulate yourself, regulate your nervous system more, go hard on that. Or there is just that mirage, that voice in your head that is saying, but you could get hurt. What if people don't like you? What if this isn't well received? Well, even if you go to the worst case scenario, it's not going to result in damage or an extreme hardship as a result. I'm sure there's exceptions in there, but you get the idea. When you look at the worst case scenario for a moment, you don't want to live in the worst case scenario, but when you ask yourself, what is it? And you look at it, then you're actually able to check in with yourself. Is this the old program, or am I genuinely not ready? Or am I dysregulated and I just need to regulate myself and then check in with myself? If your nervous system is regulated and it's still feeling like, no, I'm evaluating this and this would cause devastation, then you want to do the energetic work before you take the action. This is the other thing about risk, is that if taking the action is something that will feel devastating, do the energetic work first, because then there's not actually any risk. You're just tending the soil, you're getting everything ready, you're preparing, you're in the energetic state. Then continually check in with yourself about, okay, where am I? Where is my body? If I'm regulated and I'm presenting myself with this place of expansion that I know I want to shift into, you'll be able to tell what's really going on. And at a certain point, the tension between complacency and risk in the direction of what you desire, one is going to outweigh the other at a certain point. And when complacency is a higher risk than movement forward, the energy is mature enough. Now, you don't want, if you stay in complacency too long, like I said, it's going to get more and more painful, typically. Like genuine complacency, not the misalignment, something isn't right for me. And the flavor of something isn't right for me, the best way I can describe it is sour. So it's like this sour, achy, yeah. If that sensation is what's coming up, then it's no. If it's consistently coming up like that, it's a no. So it's okay for you to just go through some different seasons of evaluating things. But what we want to do is we want to pull back the programming. We want to pull back you could get hurt. That's the first layer that you need to break through in order to see what's actually going on. Then you can start poking around. Are there any questions right now? That was incredibly helpful. Good, good, good. I'm super glad. Okay, there's more pieces. Let me tune in with this next piece. Hold on. The other piece that is worth mentioning here is you can't get it wrong. And I'm talking about if you are listening to this right now, you're probably already familiar with energetic tools, taking good care of yourself, regulating yourself. There's a certain level of energetic baseline that you're already familiar with. Like, I don't think anyone who's listening to this is brand new to any type of spirituality, personal development, using tools. I don't think anyone here is new to that world. And because I'm speaking to that type of person in this moment, it's helpful to remind yourself that there are endless and infinite solutions to everything. This does not mean that you constantly want to be pushing your edges so damn hard that you're sending yourself into perpetual dysregulation. Because that is also something that's really rough on the body. It's not going to be a pleasant ride and it's not necessary. Like, it's not necessary for things to be that intense. So it's something else that I notice. There are certain practitioners, there's certain people, coaches, people out there who are constantly pushing this idea as you've got to be at the max all the time. You've got to be pushing yourself all the time to take the highest level of risk. If you want to grow, then da-da-da-da-da. I just want to say I don't agree. I do not believe that the only way to expand is to constantly put yourself into a dysregulated state. That doesn't make any sense to me. So let's go back to expansion is inevitable. You're expanding every day, all the time, no matter what. And even if you don't move forward with something that you want, even if there's no action to take, And even if you opt for complacency at a certain point, that expansion, that risk in the direction of the unknown that's in alignment with what you want is going to weigh heavier. It's going to win. So there's nothing that necessarily needs to be forced. When it comes to risk, it's something that is available to you. Like taking a certain level of risk that feels good to you, that feels expansive, that feels exciting, that feels like energy is coursing through my body. This is what I'm here to do. I'm fully in alignment with my forward motion, right? All of that is the stuff that makes life worth living. So there is this sweet spot that we all have to find our own balance around. I was talking with a friend the other night, and she has a history of addiction. And so one of the things that I was noticing and just reflecting back during our conversation was she kept pushing for this extreme nervous system high, the most extreme version of everything she was bringing up. And I was like, something isn't quite right about this in the motive. It's like, check the motive here. Because the other thing that's worth mentioning is sometimes if you have a stress addiction, then more than likely you're going to constantly be seeking out high stress situations. And I want to remind all of you that it's also possible for there to be relaxed expansion. That's also a paradigm that's available. But the key to doing this well is to regulate your nervous system and be able to discern, is this you're going to get hurt? Is it that, or is it there's actually a saber-toothed tiger in the bushes? So your ability to distinguish those things will help you find that sweet spot, your personal harmony with risk, and come into balance with that. But wait, there's more. Hold on, I'm finding it. I don't have notes for this, by the way. This has all just been dropping through over the past week or two. So I'm just finding it. I'm finding the other threads for you. Stress addiction stopped me taking risks so much. Regulating that was the best thing for allowing me to focus and align. Yes. So on the stress addiction note, we're constantly in this process, and this is part of what we're going to talk about when we get to the Pulse lecture. That's day 3. We're constantly in this place of like recalibrating and rebalancing ourselves. We're always feeling into that. And so you might find the way to counteract the stress addiction piece is to come back in harmony with relaxation, feel into relaxation more. When you get there, at a certain point in time, you might be so relaxed where it's like, I kind of want to let myself out and play for a little while. And so more risk is favorable. Because then it's like you're craving variety, you're craving a new adventure, you're craving all of these things, you're craving more diversity in your experience. And so that would also require you to break the complacency thing. Because again, complacency is neutral, but it depends on just what's going on, how you're coming to that decision. So counteracting the stress addiction is a risk. Not perpetually taking risks is a risk. So everything involves risk. Everything has a cost. Everything has a benefit. Everything has, risk and reward associated with it, down to the micro decisions. Your decision to pick up your phone first thing in the morning and consume social media is a risk, in the same way having a peaceful morning, doing nothing, depriving yourself of stimulation and consumption has a risk. All of this is risk, and depending on your frame of mind, what you desire, how your habits have been, all of it, let's just chalk it all up to risk, but it's a matter of what kind of risk do you want to take. Sometimes difficult to tell whether once you've taken a risk and had some growing pains or a health ebb. Can you clarify that for me? Too much too soon. Does this fall into the category of getting it wrong? Like, I can't tell if the risk was too much? Well, this is one of those things that isn't going to be easy to tell, because the only way, like, all of those feelings that you've described come after you've already done it. And it all depends on how much you want to stretch into. Because, like I said before, you're not going to get it wrong. If you're conscious, if you're aware, you know how to align, you know how to take care of yourself, you can recalibrate. You absolutely have the potential to do that. You have the ability to do that. And it's also not fair to say that when you experience something, if it takes you a minute to get there, that's necessarily wrong. But the amount of stretching that you do after you've made the decision and catching up and like I said, calibrating to it, that's where you have to decide ahead of time how much of that you can handle. So I don't think that looking at it in let me say this carefully. You will have to go off of life experience in order to tell, was that too much? So if you can audit previous decisions and say, okay, these were the markers that indicated that was too big of a risk, or this was a leap that I had a lot of difficulty getting behind energetically, and it took me a few months in order to get behind it energetically. The only way you're going to be able to really tell that is post action. So your life experience is going to be wildly helpful. And then you can also use it in the opposite way, where it's like, oh, I did that and it like wasn't enough. Like, I could have done more. I could have gone bigger. Or, you know what? I was able to calibrate to that easily. That wasn't a big deal at all. And you're kind of aiming for this Goldilocks level of risk. Right? You're just trying to feel into, where is that just right? Because you want there to be a little bit of a stretch, because that's what makes it fun. When you're shifting from not being able to do something or not seeing yourself as capable to, oh my God, I made it, a lot of satisfaction comes out of that type of evolution. I didn't think it was going to happen, or I had a lot of resistance, or I wasn't fully behind the idea, and then I got there. That is a lot of fun. That's like the funnest, the best part of risk taking. So you want there to be some of that, but how much? That's going to be different. It depends on how resilient your nervous system is. It depends on how experienced you are. It depends on how much life experience you have, how many risks you've taken, what level of risk they were at. all of that is going to play a part in what is too much. You can calibrate to anything. So it is something to say, or it's something worth pondering, that there's no such thing as too much too soon, because you can energetically line up with anything. If you're dedicated to it enough, if you're committed to it enough, you can do the mental, emotional, and spiritual work in order to get yourself there. There's no such thing as too much. There is only something that is going to cause your nervous system to go haywire, feel really uncomfortable, and take you a while to come down. It's like that's actually what happens when you do too much too soon, is you just become wildly dysregulated and have to come down off of that experience. That's like the backbone of it. Yeah. And this is also, I want to make it really clear, I have done things before. I'm going to tell this full story in Money Magic, by the way, whenever I do the next module, whenever that is. I have a feeling it'll probably out this spring, but we'll see. There was something in my life, the coming up around money, that was so painful. It was like one of my core wounds was coming up, and it was being reflected back to me in my work and around my relationship with money. And I was like, no. I will absolutely kick the can down the road. I can't look at that right now. It is too painful. And the thing is, I was right. It is really painful. It is really difficult. It is really uncomfortable. I did not want to address it. Oh my God, I waited as long as I possibly could until the tension got so bad, it got so painful that I had no choice but to address it. Like, I've procrastinated taking certain risks, and the risk was simply changing my mind. It was looking at the scary thing, opening up the closet, letting the monster out, which I do with plenty of other things, but this is one wound that I did not want to touch. It hurt so bad. It was like my skin was sensitive. It hurt so bad. And so the best possible option was kick the can down the road. I was like, I'm not dealing with this until I'm in excruciating pain. And that's what I chose. And I was watching myself do it. Could I have addressed this 6 months ago? Would that have made my life a lot easier? Yep, absolutely. But the terror that I would experience from addressing this problem was something that I simply didn't want to do. And it's still one of those things that is, I have a few fragments left that I'm working through. If I could have kicked the can down the road longer, I would have. Had this not become a destructive force in my life, had that monster not severely torn up my couch and destroyed my house, metaphorically speaking, I wouldn't have wanted to deal with it. So the pain simply had to increase in order to get me to move and shift into those spaces where I was then willing to do the scary thing and take the risk, even though it was a freaking internal, mental, emotional game. This is the same as going to therapy is a risk. I remember this was years ago. My business was a baby. Like, it was fresh. I was still doing tarot readings on YouTube. This is like way, way, way back in the day when I first started. And I was having some serious mental health issues that were destroying my body. I was not functional. Like, they were debilitating mental health issues. And the risk then was stay this way or go to therapy. My business was not able to support an investment that was nearly $1,000 a month, my brand new business. But that was the risk that I took. And then lo and behold, my business did end up fully supporting that investment. Even though the way it felt was, I don't have a choice. It's this or the hospital. My family is threatening to hospitalize me because it's that bad. So again, there's a risk to everything, and the risk of making this investment in my mental health was like a non-negotiable. That is the lowest amount of risk possible, right? Change was the lowest level of risk. The change was way lower risk than where I was, or looking at my demons, so to speak. Addressing some attachment stuff, addressing my nervous system. It's like that was way lower than the level of pain that I was in. So really, it is about how much pain tolerance you have emotionally, mentally, spiritually, how resilient your nervous system is. All of these factors play a role in the type of decisions that you make and how you evaluate risk. And then so let me speak to a different type of risk taker. There's the perpetual holding myself back. And the risk that comes with that can be really great as well, right? The pain that comes from disappointing yourself, constantly selling yourself short, not moving in the direction of your desire, that comes with a lot of pain. It also comes with shame. Shame drives a lot of bad behavior. And bad is in dysfunctional behavior, right? Things that can really, it's that monster in the closet that's going to come tear up your house. That can be driven by I'm not taking enough aligned risk. I'm so complacent that I'm ashamed of myself, or I know I'm capable of more, and I know I'm capable of doing more, and I'm simply not doing it. And that is the type of experience where then you'll start summoning things that really force you to rise to the occasion. And it's one of those things that if you're saying, I want more, but I'm scared, it will eventually put you in a pressure cooker. And this is one of those things that I see all the time, similar to how I was like, I'm not dealing with that. I am kicking the can down the road as long as I can in order to avoid that big, scary monster in the closet. I put myself in a pressure cooker. And the same goes for the alternative. If you're like shrinking down, hiding, selling yourself short, this is the type of thing that summons the energy that's going to kick you out of the nest. Like you're asking for this. Okay, the tension is building. Eventually something's going to pop. It doesn't, and I want to be clear. Don't let this scare you. It's not that deep. It can present as like a crisis, like a tower moment, that crisis experience, that shaking things up, because there is something to be said about a revelation, an awakening, having an experience that really shifts your perspectives, that gives you a new zest for life. There's so many of those things that in the moment they feel painful, but when you're looking at it in hindsight, it's like, man, that, if you don't know, my word for 2023 is mojo. Like it brought my mojo back. My thrill for the human experience, my love of the human experience resurfaced, but I had to get booted out of the nest first. Or that tension had to get so great that I had no choice but to face this thing. And so in reality, there's no escaping risk. You can't avoid risk. It's simply a matter of, are you tuning in to the right level of risk for you in the moment or not? What does risk look like for you at this season in your life right now? This would be a great journaling activity. I'll give this to you as homework if you want, if you feel called to. But just look at, especially because we're in the new year right now. Are you feeling that there's more risk in calm or in doing something that really stretches you? What would push you more? Would relaxation be the, oh my God, you mean I'm going to have to chill out for a month? Like, does that feel higher risk than doing something radical, changing your life, starting something fresh, going somewhere different, meeting new people, right? Doing something that's different, that's unknown. And then you can ask the deeper question of, are these risks going to devastate me? Or do I need to, no, I'm saying the same thing. That's why I'm getting confused. Are the risks going to devastate me? And so I need the energy to mature further, meaning I need to daydream, I need to focus, I need to fantasize, I need to imagine it a little bit further. Or is it go time? Is it inevitable? I know this is the right next step for me. This is absolutely a no-brainer. Of course I should be doing this. I should have done this ages ago. That type of, it's so obvious that it's go time. Like, you've been waiting for way too long. Come on now. Come on, just go for it. Because there's those moments too. But you have to evaluate yourself. We're all in different positions. I'm in a position where I'm very much into security. Being able to do things and receive things and trust my magnetism to pull things into my experience and just allowing myself to be and expand in a way where my nervous system is as relaxed as humanly possible the entire time. That's the season of life that I'm in. I just came off several years of taking really huge risks. And so now things are feeling a little bit different for me. So you can just go through and start looking at, what does risk look like for you at this season of your life? What are you coming out of? Are you coming out of a lot of intense risk? Are you coming out of a season of complacency? Here's another prompt if you like. If you knew that everything would work out, there would be zero consequences, everything would work out like a dream, and everything went your way, what risk would you take or what would you do differently? Try that one out and see how it goes. Let's see. Anything else? Let's open it up for questions. Did all of that make sense? Do you have any other questions about programming? I have a feeling that more programming is going to come up tomorrow. But just let me know if you have any questions or if you feel complete, if you feel good. Does all of that make sense? Where are you at? That was awesome and super helpful. Thank you. Can't wait for tomorrow. Perfect. And also, if you're watching the replay before January 5th, you can email your questions to hello@onyxhealing.com if you want me to address them at the end of one of these calls. 2 years ago, I took a big risk, moved to a city and a different job. It has turned out not great. How do I realign? Can you describe what's not great about it? Like, what are the core complaints? The city sucks. I have no friends and I no longer like my career. Okay, so the first thing is, to me, this sounds like at the time that you made the decision, you were putting more of the emphasis on the risk than the alignment. So this is a perfect thing to add here, is that taking risk for the sake of taking risk that's not what we want to be doing. That's not what we want to be in the habit of, but it's super common. Sometimes people will be like, I need something new. I need something fresh. So I'm just gonna whatever. And if you were coming out of a situation that had a similar tone, the tone is what follows you, right? So if you were dissatisfied before, then you take a risk. That's a misaligned risk if the energy isn't backed. This is why one of the things that I'm saying is like, get the energy to mature a little bit more. Because if you were moving away from something dissatisfying, that's what I suspect the common threads were that bled into the decision. So this is where auditing decisions that went sideways is really helpful, or risks that went sideways, because there's always something that you'll find where you're like, oh yeah, these were the things that I was trying to escape that ended up following me. These are the things I was trying to get away from. This is what I was trying to fix. If you're trying to fix something through risk, then that is oftentimes going to follow you because the core energetic pattern has not changed. The best thing that you can do is shift the core energetic pieces, meaning you think the thoughts, you focus on the things that you desire, you stabilize yourself energetically, you get really unconditional with your feeling state. I am feeling this way because I desire to feel this way. These are the things that I want to feel in my experience. When that is stable, then all of the risks are congruent and compatible with that energetic core that you've established beforehand. So I would break this up into a couple different things. So I would break it up into like your relationship with yourself. Instead of focusing on other people, I would focus on like fun. How can I have more fun? What would feel good to do? Or how can I, entertain myself for myself? Meaning, do fun activities. Like, because you're wanting to create the energetic pattern that is compatible with friends, right? But you want to do it unconditionally. You don't want it to be like the friends come and then. You have to flip that around. The second piece about the city sucks, I would specifically focus on the things that you like about the city. There's got to be something. There's something that you appreciate about it. And if that's too difficult, then I just wouldn't focus on it at all. But if there's anything at all that you do like, it doesn't matter if it's a restaurant, if it's the way the city is mapped out, if it's the teeniest, tiniest thing that you appreciate about it, do that as often as you possibly can, or stay away from it and focus on something else. And then I no longer like my career. You would want to reimagine what would the attributes and characteristics of an ideal career situation be for you, and then go there. How would you feel? How would you think? What would your daily flow look like? You having this experience where there's this huge cluster of things that are unfavorable to you means that there's something on the other side. All of this has created a bunch of expansion for you. That's what has happened as a result of this experience. So there's value, but you have to be able to look at, this has created XYZ desire internally. And then you want to facilitate an energetic ecosystem where that is what you are magnetically pulling in, right? I say this a lot because it's true for any type of manifestation. The energy has to come first. The energy exists first. It exists proactively. So your job is to just concentrate that energy in a more intentional way and know that it will be matched. This is true of money. When people are talking about making more money, it's like, well, you've got to get in the vibe of money. You've got to hold the expectation of money. You've got to know the money is available and I'm just feeling the feelings of being overflowing and abundant, right? Those feeling states, that energetic emission has to come first. And this is true of love. This is true of friendship. This is true of living situations. This is true of all the things that we desire. The energy has got to be there first. The energetic core, you want the energetic core to be solid, and then the risks that are inspired from that energetic stability are going to feel buttery smooth. And it's going to serve you in all sorts of ways. And when you take a risk that does not turn out well, you've got to mine the gold. You have to search for it. You've got to find it. And you have to keep your eye on, okay, now that I had that experience, it opened up all of these desires for me. And now I have to energetically calibrate myself, meaning think, feel, act, imagine in accordance with that desire. Does that make sense? I would also just want to add this. It's very tempting when you're in a difficult situation or when there's something really dissatisfying. It could be that that moving ends up being the right next move. That could be, but not from that energetic space. So will that eventually pan out? I don't know. Either all of this stuff starts going your way and you completely fall in love with all of the things that are around you, or you feel better anyway. All of the things start clearing up because of your intentional creation. And then as a result, another opportunity that feels super in alignment, that is just a no-brainer. Yes, of course, take the risk. And then you jump from there. So those are pretty much the two possibilities of what's going to shake out. And both of them will work for you. So that's what we have going on there. Anything else, my friends? Anything else? And if you feel complete, you can let me know that as well. Wow, you made my day. Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to do that. I just want to give it one more minute for questions in case anyone's typing, feeling complete, perfect. I'm not doing any Q&As, so I want to make sure I don't hang up while someone's typing. Feeling complete. Good. Tomorrow morning, we have day 2, which is going to be climb. I'm very excited for that. All right, my friends, I think that is it. That completes day 1. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a beautiful rest of your day. And I will see you later. Bye.